back in the middle of February, the 75th Berlin International Film Festival was held, and we will recap the festival and we'll present you the films that are the most worth putting onto your watch list. So welcome back to Quiet on Set. I'm Ewan Graf, and as you might have noticed already, I'm joined by not my usual hosts like Lachlan or Kevin, but today I'm joined by Max Borg. Max, you said it is your 15th time that you've been to the festival?
14th.
14th. Sorry, I'm already rounding up.
Yeah.
But first up, welcome. With the vast experience that you have attending this festival, how was this one stacking up to other years previous?
It was good. The main problem was not so much the quality of the films, which was overall good, not great. But bear in mind, there was a regime change last year, and it usually takes a year or so for the new team to really settle in and instill their own voice into the festival. The main problem is, I mean, the reason I love Berlin is because compared to Cannes and Venice, it actually takes place across the whole city, and you get to experience it with the citizens of Berlin, with the regular audience, whereas in Cannes and Venice, we're usually by ourselves with our fellow journalists and film professionals. The problem is this year, there was a bit of a mess logistically. Berlin has been having a logistical problem for a few years now, with some theaters shutting down and the new ones not always being up to the task. And this year, there was also a 48-hour public transport strike, which may have affected how we saw some of the films.
Yeah, no, that will do it. I mean, I didn't get to join you in person there, but I was able to screen some movies virtually, literally just watching one of them that actually is on your top 10 right before this live stream. I'm wondering, how many movies did you end up seeing, like excluding the short films this year?
Excluding shorts, I think it's 42 in person, plus a few more via links. But of those 42, I think 5 or 6 were part of the retrospective. So new ones were about 35.
And you've seen some stuff that was overlap with Sundance as well.
Yeah. There's one movie that is not in my top 10 that I would have included otherwise, but I already reviewed it at Sundance, so I didn't count it as a Berlin film. It's this Norwegian horror comedy called The Ugly Stepsister, which is basically a body horror version of Cinderella from the point of view of the stepsister.
Well, let's get into your top 10. And but I do wonder, was it hard to just pick the 10 movies? Was it overall a good lineup?
The lineup was good. Picking the top 10 was straightforward enough, because those were really the 10 titles that stood out the most to me of the ones I've seen.
Well, I think we'll save honorable mentions. We'll get into your list, and then afterwards we'll discuss maybe some of the buzzier titles that maybe they didn't even make it onto your top 10. And the first one that you got on your list is a film called That Summer in Paris. Can you tell us more about?
Yes, so That Summer in Paris was in the new section called Perspectives, which is a section reserved for first features. So this is a first film from France about this girl who had featured in
I do have to do a quick test over here. It might have cut you out because we did have that Oscar screen that did. Yeah, I'm checking it right now on our screen. I'm sorry, I did just, as soon as I switched, I think it turned you off. Let me fix it. Let me fix that real quick. I am very sorry. There must have been something with technical hiccups. Last when we watched the Oscars, they took us down completely. There we go. Okay. Oh wait, could you say something again?
Checking. One, two,
I'm
three.
so sorry. Well, Max is back. I'm so sorry. As soon as I switched over here, it did kind of mute you because we had a different audio setup for our Oscars. Could you tell us about this one again? I'm sorry.
Yeah, so that summer in Paris, it played in the perspective section, which was the news section reserved for first features. So this one is from France, and it's about this girl who travels to Paris over the summer, last summer, in fact, during the Summer Olympics. In fact, the movie was shot during the Olympics. You can feel that energy on the screen. And she also takes that time to reconnect with her sister, who she hasn't seen in a few years, and with her niece, who she hasn't seen in a while either. And I really liked, the mood and the vibe. Like you can really feel the real life energy seeping into the movie. And I also really enjoyed the characterizations and the interactions between the two female leads.
Well, this one is definitely going on to our watch list, not for the one here on Quiet on Set, but it is already on mine. You gave that one an 8 out of 10, so I feel like everything in your top 10 is getting like an 8 out of 10 or above. So pretty solid lineup there. So next up, the movie you got on your list next has an interesting title. It's called Lesbian Space Princess.
Yes.
Please say more.
Yes. So, I mean, the title was obviously a plus, but also it's animation. I'm a huge animation fan. I go to the Annecy Film Festival every year. And this is an Australian animation. And it is about a lesbian space princess, very straightforward per the title. And her problems with love and then dealing with this alien race, which is basically toxic masculinity. And I enjoyed it for how it dealt with current gender issues in a very fun and breezy and irreverent way.
Yeah.
And I really like the voice work, especially. There is one fairly famous voice in the cast, Richard Roxburgh, you might remember as the villain from Moulin Rouge, for example. And he voices this spaceship who is put upon by everyone.
Right. Okay. Well, this one also sounds super intriguing. Do you know, was this a part of like Perspectives as well? Was it one of like a first project?
No, this was in Panorama, which is the section that has the audience award, and it's also the section that historically has the most queer-oriented films in the program. So this was a natural fit for that selection.
Right. I love that it's very straightforward, straight white malians.
Yes, exactly. Straight white malians. Yeah.
Great stuff. No, this one definitely keep it on your radar as well. I guess with animation, especially with smaller ones, it can become a bit tricky to have it on like the radar actually for a release. I assume it's likeliest that maybe this will play at some other festivals, right? But,
yeah, definitely. This is more of a festival film, and maybe some of the more niche streaming platforms will pick it up, but I don't see it getting a general release, sadly.
Well, then next up, you have a couple of movies in your top 10 that have long titles, and this one isn't that long. We'll get to the even longer ones in a bit, but what does That Nature Say to You?
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is the latest by Hong Sang-soo, who is a regular guest at the Berlinale. I think he's had one film per year since 2020 at least, and he usually makes 2 or 3 movies a year. So
right,
like he's been in Locarno a bunch of times as well,
yes.
and Cannes and Venice. He's basically whenever he has a movie ready, he pops up at one of the big festivals. And this one is one of the more peculiar recent ones. So it is typical Hong in the sense that it is about human relationships. It's about this guy who meets his girlfriend's parents for the first time, and he gets drunk over dinner and things happen. And it's very fun and light and breezy. And I really like the aesthetics as well, because the guy says at the beginning he can't see properly. His vision is a bit blurry. And he also shoots wedding videos to support himself. And the aesthetics are really the blurry ones of a wedding video.
Okay. So is it a really like a slower contemplative film that you just kind of...
Not really. It's for a Hong Sang-soo, it's one of the breezier, funnier ones.
Okay. Well, definitely keep that on my radar, which is something that I'll say like 20 times, I guess, today. Keep it on your radar. Now this is the long title that I was talking about.
Yes.
How to be normal and the oddness of the other world. I watched this one as well. I didn't like it as much as you did, but I gotta hear from you. What
I do like that on the poster. The first half of the title is bigger than the second half.
yeah, definitely.
Yes, so this was also in Perspectives. It's an Austrian film. It's also going to open the Diagonale in Graz in a few weeks. So for those who don't know, the Diagonale is the big festival devoted to Austrian films in Austria every year. It's a very good festival. And this is a comedy drama about work-life balance and mental issues and relationships between parents and their children. And I really enjoyed it for how he brought those elements together in a very chaotic and sometimes over the top, but still fairly grounded way. And also, like, especially in the second half, how it started referencing certain movies that fit into that vibe. It was very fun. Like there's a prolonged Matrix homage that I really found amusing.
Yeah, I think what I enjoyed about it the most was also homages to other things. I just didn't really connect with it, and I kind of struggled that it didn't really work for me as a whole. But it had like really entertaining bits. But yeah, this one you said is playing at other festivals. It's not showing up here yet.
It's going to be at the Diagonale on the 28th of March, and then beyond that, we'll see.
Especially, with it being Austrian, it does make sense that maybe that it has the biggest it garners the biggest interest for people who do want to check it out.
Yeah.
And next up we have What Marielle Knows. Is it a German film? Yes, a German.
This is German, yeah. My favorite German film from the main competition. And I was actually surprised at how much I enjoyed it because, full disclosure, I am always a bit on the fence about the German films in the main competition. Similar to the Italian films in Venice, like I tend to prefer the ones outside of the main competition. And this one really surprised me, like just the originality and approach, because it's minimalistic sci-fi comedy about this teenage girl who develops the ability to this telepathic of sorts ability to see and hear everything her parents do, and it puts a strain on their relationship because obviously they basically the opening setup is that they both have weird days at work, and then they lie about it over dinner, and the girl goes, "That's not what happened."
Yeah.
And no, it's very funny. Like at one point, her father works at a publishing house, and my favorite gag is when he tries to get around her telepathy by suddenly switching to French because he's translating a book from French.
Yeah, no, okay. So it's a great setup for a lot of like is it like comedic at times, or is it mainly
it is a comedy, but like very there is a bit of a cringe humor, shall we say.
Okay. Yeah, with knowing more, is it like an internal dialogue that we hear from
No, we don't hear anything.
Okay.
It's her powers manifest in that after the fact, she will repeat what they said just to prove that she has powers.
Right. Okay.
Like the only genre concession, shall we say, there are a few shots of her that are like sort of dreamlike, and she's kind of framed like Sissy Spacek in Carrie, which is an obvious visual reference for her.
Well, this one already has distribution, so I assume at least in the DACH countries in Germany, Switzerland, and Austria, we can assume that it will get a release down the line. Well, it already has a theatrical opening in Germany at least. And then we are making it into your top 5 with a film that has already broken some records of that week. I guess that it was out and released.
Yes.
It was a huge opening here. Literally, the cinema that I work at tonight, our screening is completely sold out. For example, like tonight it's playing. So this one is a huge hit. I I love this one. I think it's great. This is a Swiss movie, and I think it's like our shot to make it to the Oscars potentially next year.
Yes. I mean, Petra Volpe's previous film was also selected to be the Oscar submission that year. So we're
Yeah.
talking about The Divine Order from like 7 or 8 years ago.
Yeah.
And if the commission were to choose this one to be our submission this year, I would not be against it, because I really responded to this thriller-like vibe. It reminded me of the early episodes of ER, where the doctors would have these 24-hour shifts with very little sleep and have to deal with the stress of multiple cases overlapping. And this is similar in that it has a similar vibe added to the contemporary issue of staff shortages at hospitals, which is the reason the movie exists. Is mentioned in the credits that there will be a 30% decrease in nursing staff within a few years. So that's why Petra made this movie. And so this was one of 2 Swiss films in the official selection. I like them both, but this was my favorite of the 2. The other one was Lionel Bayer's The Safe House, which is coming out in the French part of Switzerland later this month.
And this one is already out in Switzerland, at least in a German-speaking part, and I think it's releasing in a couple of months, in June, I believe, in the French part. And,
also worth mentioning, because the version I saw in Berlin, and I imagine the one you saw as well, was the original, but in Germany there is also a dubbed version where they all speak standard German.
Yeah, no, I saw this one at a cinema conference event, where I had to sign embargo and everything. I wasn't allowed to talk about it, but they did show us the one where they do speak Swiss German. It's Toby's film, I think, is like doing the distribution in Germany, and I don't know why they did that. Maybe because Germans really don't like to hear Swiss German. It is a bit baffling to me.
They would have to subtitle the Swiss German, and German viewers don't like subtitles. That's the reason.
That makes a ton of sense, because I feel like even more in Germany, the dubbing is way bigger than it is.
I think it was Pierre Monard who told me that Platzspitz Baby had to be dubbed as well to be released outside of Switzerland.
Well, I think what's also stunning about this one is that Leonie Benesch really nails this role. Like, I completely buy her as this
absolutely.
nurse. I think technically it's also incredibly impressive what her cinematographer Judith Kaufmann is doing with like the longer scenes, and then I believe her editor, also Hans-Jörg Weisbrich, got the Indie Spirit Award for editing on his work on September 5, I believe. And I think that one's also, it just works on a story level. The setup is great. I can stand behind like the message it's got is good.
The one real negative is, I agree with our mutual friend Luca Bruno, who's not a huge fan of the German title.
Heldin? Yeah, which means like heroine, but like the female version of.
Yes, exactly. Like Late Shift works much better, I think.
Yeah, I mean, Heldin feels a bit more straightforward of what it's going for, when maybe, yes, in this case she is like doing that and putting herself out there, but I think it is way more about like that ending of the film, about like the shortages coming up, and I don't know if he even needs to be a hero for that to be incredibly relevant. And maybe some characters it could be, you know, a bit cheesy in how over the top they seem, but I feel like it balances it out quite well.
Yeah.
But this one, keep it on your radar. Switzerland is something to contribute to cinema worldwide this year. I think this will definitely, hopefully, get an international release as well. But then we are at your number. So we are at your number 3 here, and I am okay. So when I got the information that I won't be attending Berlinale, that we don't have enough reach, that I can't go there, I was really sad and very blue, specifically because I knew that Richard Linklater's new movie Blue Moon was to play there, and he's one of my favorite filmmakers alive, like currently working. Ethan Hawke is incredible, Margaret Qualley, Andrew Scott, Bobby Cannavale. Can you tell me more about this? I did try to stay clear about like what people were thinking about this one, so like this is my first time actually hearing about it.
I'm also a huge Linklater fan. In fact, I think his first movie I saw in theaters was Before Midnight at the Berlinale 12 years ago.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
then Boyhood the
Sweet.
year after, and then he hasn't been in Berlin since then. He came back with this one, and yeah, so it's an examination of artistic frustration. It's about Lawrence Hart, a real American lyricist, and he's airing his grievances on the night of the premiere of Oklahoma, which his usual collaborator did with someone else.
Hmm.
And so Hart is played by Ethan Hawke, and it is in a way also very much a movie about Linklater's working relationship with Ethan Hawke, because he gifted him this wonderful role of like the frustrated artist, and it's a beautiful piece of writing and acting. And Margaret Qualley is also excellent. And the one real gripe I have with the movie is it did win the award for best supporting performance for Andrew Scott, who
Hmm.
plays
Richard Rogers.
Hart's former partner. Yes,
Hmm.
exactly. And nothing against Andrew Scott, he's a fine actor, but I found it weird that he was deemed the best supporting performance of the entire competition when he's not even the best supporting performance in the movie.
Is it Bobby Cannavale, like Eddie better
I mean,
or
Bobby Cannavale and Margaret
Cannavale?
Qualley are both much better, I think. But
Right.
it's also like his role is more subdued and he has less screen time, and he doesn't really get to do that much. Like it felt a
Hmm.
bit weird that he got that award.
Right. A bit more that we just appreciate Andrew Scott in this
Yeah,
current
probably.
moment. That
Yes.
yeah. Well, I'm very much looking forward to this one. I don't know if it doesn't have a release date over here on Letterboxd yet, but I assume
No, I
hopefully
think
we get it.
like the only I think it's Sony Pictures Classics is releasing it in the U.S. and I'm not sure about any other countries picking it up yet.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. I mean, with Hitman last year, that was a bit of a
Yeah,
tricky one for it to release in some
true.
places, unless you
Also, this
had
is
a VPN and
probably
Netflix.
more of something that we will see later in the year in case they want to position it for awards and whatnot. It's more
Hmm.
that kind of movie.
Are you well? There's another movie that he has in the works that is bound to release or at least play at festivals this year, maybe later
Oh
in
yeah.
fall. I'm blanking on what that one's called. Is no, this one's the one that's going to be filming over the next 20 years. Merrily we go around, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
But I thought he had another one, but maybe I'm wrong. Well, then we have arrived already at your number 3. And I'm very glad that you enjoyed the Golden Bear winner, Dreams, Sex, Love, which didn't have Sex, Love at the start, but then there were a bunch of movies called Dreams at this year's, or
Well,
like
there were two
there were
movies called Dreams in
Dreams.
competition, so they
Yeah.
added Sex Love in parentheses. But like, it's only dreams in the movie itself, except
Yeah.
for one thing I might mention. But
Well, I've seen. Have you seen Sex and Love as well?
I've seen Love, I haven't seen Sex yet.
Hmm. I've seen all 3 of them. This is a great trilogy. I love this, and I'm very glad that at least here locally for us, that it does have a release date later this year here in Switzerland. I think but like for the 3 films, this was to me the weakest one, but it still was very good, which just speaks to great Norwegian cinema that we were treated to in the last couple of years. But what did you think about this one?
Yeah, so of the two I've seen, I liked Love better, also because knowing the order they're supposed to be seen in, well, I mean, supposed to, they're not connected in terms of storytelling, but Love is the third one in the sequence technically, and it works better as an emotional climax, also because this is a trilogy about relationships in Oslo, and Oslo is really a character in the
Hmm.
third one in Love. But I really like this one, and like I said, I haven't seen Sex yet, but from what I know about that film, this is very much the good middle point, because it's about this teenage girl who develops a crush on her teacher, and so it has this. It's the perfect middle point between Sex, which, as I understand, was more about attraction in the strictest sense, and Love, which is about the more complex relationships that develop later on. And I thought it was very well written. Like, there is a lot of voiceover, but it doesn't feel intrusive. Like, it actually works in the context of the film.
Hmm.
And the performances were great. And I'm really curious to watch the whole trilogy now that it's releasing in theaters. Also because I'm very impressed by the fact that he basically shot the Free movies back to back, not always with the same crew, because all the Free movies are quite different, also aesthetically. And
Mhm.
so I'm curious to see them like all together and get the full scope of his vision.
I mean, this one just had so much warmth in certain scenes, and then it did feel like colder in others. Like it got that vibe perfectly. And I think I also thought that sex was more about like attraction, but to me it was also a bit more about just also a gender identity, or just like identity overall, and navigating I guess maybe parts of attraction, or finding out new things about yourself when you already feel like you're not doing that anymore. You're at a point in your life when you don't anymore. I think those two worked great. Love by Me is a standout of these, because it's just the going back and forth, and like the story it tells and the conversations it has, it completely blew me away. This won the Golden Bear, right? The main prize. I think that Love should also have gotten something in Venice. If I had my pick,
Absolutely, yeah.
I would have given that like over the Almodovar. I would have given this like the top prize or something else.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like, but
Like the Golden
yeah.
Lion last year felt very much like a
Where
career
Brady,
prize for
we want to
Almodovar,
give
which is funny
Grady,
because he got one
yeah.
in Venice a few years earlier.
And they wanted to give the director a prize to Brady Corbet, so it felt like they couldn't give The Brutalist the top award, even though I think a lot of people were in agreement, would say that was the best film that they've seen at the festival. But yeah. And then we do have your. Wait, I'm just moving over pretty freely with Mickey 17. I also had the pleasure to see this one myself, and somewhere here I do have Mickey 7, which I have yet to finish. To me it's like one of my lesser favorite Bong Joon-ho movies. The thing is, the man is a genius, so it's like really tough for him to not make a movie that I adore, but I did connect with it a bit less than I think you did, because I did see your ranking of Bong Joon-ho's movies, and this one was pretty high as well, right? So
Yeah,
what did you
it's
think?
my favorite of the Free movies he's done in English, definitely.
Yeah. I think I do like Okja quite a bit, but that one can be pretty hit or miss with its tone. This one feels, it's a bit out there tonally as well. You do have to get on its the same wavelength, but then I think
Oh
it's
yeah, yeah,
pretty
no, you
straightforward.
definitely have to vibe with it, and I did. I like when he does these sci-fi satire movies that really go for the big swings, and this one definitely goes big. It's probably Robert Pattinson's best performance, or should we say performances. And
Yes.
I really love the way he differentiated the two characters he plays, and just yeah, the crazy tone and the visuals and the action scenes. And I mean, there's also a bit of a backstory here. So the movie has been delayed a bunch of times, and there were people saying this was because Warner Brothers was not happy with the movie and was taking it away from Bong. Having now seen it, I can say that is completely false, because if you see the movie, there is no way in hell the top people at Warner Brothers are happy with the version that is coming out. This is not their approved version.
I think what one of my shortcomings is just how Trumpish or Trumpian that Mark Ruffalo's characters comes off. It's a bit much.
And also because of the whole premise of a rich guy going into space, he's clearly Elon Musk as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's got a bit of everything. I think Robert Pattinson is the standout here. I did also quite enjoy Toni Collette. Like her character is like basically just like whispering into Mark Ruffalo's ear the whole movie, because he's just such an like he's a pretty despicable character. But I mean, this one opens wide, worldwide as well later this week, and I'm sure with the popularity of Parasite that a lot of people will seek this one out, and I'm sure they'll have a great time with it. I think it like comes together well, but if I had to stack it up to like some of his other films, it's just like something about it didn't 100% click as like perfect as some of his other movies seem to me.
I can tell you anecdotally, I was at the cinema a few days ago watching this Italian comedy here in Lugano, and there were a few young people behind me during the intermission talking about Parasite, and they were like wondering aloud, what has the director done after that? And I told them, well, there's this one coming out in a few weeks, and they're like, what's it about? Robert Pattinson playing clones. Yes, we're watching it.
Yeah, I think it's also a very funny movie.
Yes.
Like it's got that tone down. Just the approach of hey, why is it not called Mickey 7 but Mickey 17? And Bong saying that, well, he just wanted to kill him 10 more times. It's very charming. And
Yeah,
and
no,
you can feel that.
it's one of those things. Like, there's this rumor about the upcoming Superman movie that the only reason Nathan Fillion is playing Guy Gardner is because James Gunn wanted to put that wig on him.
Well, wouldn't that be lovely? No, yeah. I think because we are in Zoom, it's going to close out our meeting in a bit, which I will stall and re-invite you. So there will be a bit of another technical hiccup. Again,
Okay.
I'm not the most familiar with Zoom, to be honest. Although we did all have to use it, I guess, during the times of the pandemic. But maybe we can, before we get cut off, briefly talk about your favorite film coming out of the festival, which was Leibniz Chronicles of a Lost Painting.
Yes, so this was probably the movie I was looking forward to the most, besides Mickey 17 and the Linklater, because it's the latest and probably final movie by Edgar Wright, simply because he's getting old. That's the only reason. And there was already an air of finality to this other movie he had last year, which was called Filmstunde 23, where he reconnected with some of his old students when he was a teacher at film school.
Mm-hmm.
And this one is about Leibniz. He's having his portrait painted, and he engages in conversation with the painter. And I just loved how at this stage of his career, Wright does this smaller movie compared to what he usually does. So for those unfamiliar with him, he's the creator of the Heimat Saga, which is this sprawling family chronicle in a German village across the 20th century. And then he also did a prequel set 100 years earlier, if I remember correctly. And this is much smaller in scope. It's very much character piece, as you can also see from the poster. And it's visually arresting. It's very well written. The performances are exquisite. And I just really loved it. Like, if this truly is his final movie, it's a great note to go out on.
Mm-hmm. Well, I have it on my radar, and I think we are gonna be cut off in a bit, so we will need to restart it. In the meantime, I will present some of the, I guess, films that I've been watching while I get you back in here. But I'll talk to you in a second.
Of course.
Yeah, it's a bit tricky. We'll see if I can end and then restart this. The thing is, I really don't like, Max is gone now, unfortunately, but we'll get him back in. I'm not a big fan of Zoom because it is not easy to use. I feel like. Let's see. Wait, I do have a buffer and I can't use it for another 9 minutes. Look, it literally says this. This is okay. I like Zoom even less. It says here I can't use it for another 9 minutes. Well, that's a bummer, unless I pay them money. God damn it. Well, that's annoying. You know what? What do we do here? It is, damn, it's like $15. That is crazy. We don't have that type of money, man. I didn't know that there was like a limit because I never had an issue setting these up, but apparently you can only do 40 minutes at a time and then gotta pay some money. Let's see if I can start another one if I don't just do a meeting. Okay, now it worked. Can I invite him again? Professional podcast here. Never have been better. and more professional. All right. I cut him off. You know, he couldn't talk for a bit. He had to repeat himself. What am I doing to Max? It's not nice. All right. He should be able to join back in a second. But there were a bunch of films that I think we're still gonna touch on once he's back in. There were a couple that I'm quite curious about that I'll definitely ask him, because there was like the Michel Franco one called Dreams, that looks quite intriguing. We'll talk about that one in a second. Here you got Mine, by the way. I did watch a couple that I'm not even going to bring up much, but I did like a few of them. All right, Max. He's back. Yes, I'm back. They wanted me to pay like them. Wanted me to pay like $15, so I can have a meeting, which is crazy. I guess the funds from the days of like the pandemic have run out, so it's pretty expensive now to run a Zoom meeting. But yeah, we were just in the middle of, I guess, finishing up your top 10. Was there anything else from the festival that like just barely missed your top 10, and any other big films that should be mentioned?
Yeah, so like I said earlier, there was this very good Norwegian film in the panorama section called The Ugly Stepsister, which didn't make it into my top 10 simply by virtue of me having seen it during Sundance. And I also, this one I saw in Berlin, and I really enjoyed If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You, the other big Sundance movie that played at Berlin. And this one won Best Performance. Rose Byrne, she's terrific in it. And I really liked how it depicted its take on family life. I'm not going to say more because that would be venturing into spoiler territory. And she was absolutely terrific. And since the Oscars were this weekend, I also want to mention Conan O'Brien, who plays her therapist and does a very excellent job in a dramatic role.
Yeah, I'm so looking forward to this one. It seemed to be quite liked coming out of Sundance. So,
Yes.
and especially if it's got like a good performance at the center of it all. I mean, what more could you ask for? That sounds pretty fun.
Yes.
What about some of the potential duds? Some big films like a Hot Milk that you didn't connect with?
No, not really. Like I enjoyed the idea, but it really didn't go anywhere for me, and it felt emotionally hollow. And the three main actresses were all great, so Emma Mackey, Fiona Shaw, and Vicky Krieps, but just they didn't come together to create a cohesive whole for me. And also worth mentioning, since we're in Switzerland, Vincent Perez is in the film as well.
There we go. As Dr. Gomez.
Yes.
Yeah.
And again, he it's an interesting character, but I just don't. I don't think they add up to anything that interesting, really. I haven't read the book, so I can't tell if it's an adaptation problem or otherwise.
Right. Okay. Well, I think just because it is based on is something else that like people do have a bit more interest in it, and especially I think Vicky Krieps and Emma Mackey, you know, they've been in some great films, but unfortunately,
Absolutely.
I guess, yeah, you didn't really connect with it as much.
No, not really. It was like one of the few competition films I didn't really like that much. Like of the 19 competition films, I think it was, I liked like 16 of them, I think.
Okay. Well, you mean like in a way that you didn't mind
like
watching?
every
What's your level?
Yeah, everything was at least watchable, and even the ones I disliked, they still had like some good ideas in them and a sense of like filmmaking spirit. I just didn't connect with them really.
Well, what did you think about Michel Franco's Dreams?
Yes. So Franco is very hit and miss for me. I really like his early Mexican stuff. So after Lucia and Las Hijas de Abril and stuff like that. I didn't really like New Order, which was in Venice a few years ago. Although, I mean, it's a divisive movie. Like, I get what it's going for. It just wasn't for me.
Mhm.
And I didn't really like Sundown either, but I quite enjoyed Memory, which was his first collaboration with Jessica Chastain, and she's in Dreams as well.
Mhm.
And it didn't entirely work for me. I think it goes a bit off the rails in the third act, but I did quite enjoy the central idea of how it looks at the American dream from the perspective of a migrant who realizes it's not really what it's been hyped up to be.
Mhm. Well, I'm still intrigued by it, although I do kind of share your same feelings about like his filmography. I did really like Memory. It was one of my favorites coming out of that year in Venice, and then his other ones, pretty hit or miss with me as well. For me as well. With it being Michel Franco, we can assume that we'll get this one sooner than later in theaters as well, right?
Yeah.
Well, let's have a look at maybe the whole lineup here. Is there anything else that like stands out to you that we definitely need to like talk about? I guess it's mirrored for you.
No, it's fine.
Like this is, I guess, the competition mainly.
Yeah, so I already mentioned the Safe House, La Cache, de Lionel Bayer, which is coming out in the French part of Switzerland soon. It was very good. And I mean, I guess we'll probably see Timestamp at some point, the Ukrainian documentary, the only documentary in the competition. Which it's a very interesting overview of what's going on in Ukraine from the point of view of the newer generations, because it's a portrait of a school year across different parts of the country.
Right.
So like some schools have been completely destroyed and the students are all on Zoom, and then there's other places where the war hasn't really had much of a physical impact, so they are allowed to like graduate in person with the whole ceremony and that kind of stuff. And I really liked it, although I did feel like, even though it's 2 hours long, the fact that it covers so much ground means that some segments felt a bit rushed.
Okay.
Like, I could have spent more time with most of the schools, yeah.
But I think in the last couple of years, we've gotten a ton of documentaries about Ukraine and the invasion and the war and everything. And some of them I think have been pretty missed for me at times. But I guess this one is not a...
No, this one is also interesting because they obviously do mention the war, like the context is there, but you never actually see it.
It's through the... Okay, so it's just, I guess, the like repercussions later on for those not affected by like the actual fighting. Yeah. The first vibe here is I'm getting Tilda Swinton, but this one is it? Wait,
that's an old one they showed because she got the honorary Golden Bear this year.
Okay, that tripped me up for a second there. Then also A Complete Unknown premiered. This one is soon opening in Switzerland. Did you manage to see this one as well?
Yeah, I did see that one. Yeah, it's fun, although from my point of view, because it's about this legendary concert in 1975 and the events leading up to that concert. It never quite lives up to how legendary that concert was, but it's a fun watch.
Yeah, we've been hearing from a lot of people here locally that are excited for this one here. What about the opening film? I haven't heard anything but bad things about The Light.
Yeah, so Tom Tykwer is very hit and miss for me. Like, even in Berlin, I was telling people that other than Run Lola Run, the thing I've enjoyed most of the German stuff he's done is Inglorious Bastards, because he translated the dialogue into German for that film.
Right. Is he credited as a writer there?
I think he receives a special thanks credit at the end.
Right.
But yeah, this one is, I mean, I do admire its ambition, because it is very ambitious. Like, it's this family portrait that goes in all different directions. Like, there are musical numbers, there's an animated segment, but yeah, it's just becomes too much for me at one point. And also, I'm not a huge fan of like family dramas where at one point it all just devolves into shouting. Like, sorry, but shouting is not emotional depth for
What
me.
do you mean? That's cinema, shouting. You know, I have seen a couple of his films. I think I remembered this one just because soon after this was out on TV, it was like screened late night because I think it's pretty like there's a lot of nudity and stuff like in it, if I remember correctly.
There is.
And it was like me seeing this as it couldn't have been more than like 10 or 11. I'm watching this movie that I'm not supposed to. I was like, what is this? And but yeah, I guess he's had some interesting movies.
Though I mean, this movie, you can also tell he spent the last decade or so collaborating with the Wachowskis, because there's a lot of Cloud Atlas / Sense8 vibes going on here.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like I admire its ambition, but it just didn't really work for me. And even like the other night I was watching Nickel Boys at Frame for the Oscars, and they played the trailer for this one. Even just watching the trailer, I was like, yeah, no, like I get where you're going, but it's just not for me.
Yeah, we just got the invite for a press screening for this one, but after hearing basically only bad things about it, I don't know if I'll make the trip out to go see that one.
I mean, there is interesting stuff in it, but I also don't think it justifies like 2 hours and 50 minutes almost of all the stuff it's piling up.
Quite long, yeah.
Yeah.
Lurker was another one that played, I think, at Sundance, right?
Yes, that one I didn't see because the press screening for that one in Berlin overlapped with the only screening I could go to of Lesbian Space Princess, as a matter of fact. So.
Well,
and I figure, like, I think it's an A24 movie. It will
probably
release sooner rather than later. So
yeah, which is, you know, A24 only does stateside distribution, so sometimes it can be a bit tough. And like when it releases internationally, do they do the release in the UK and Australia sometimes?
Oh, I don't think so.
It is,
but really, I mean, it's the kind of movie that local distributors might be interested in picking up.
Well, fingers crossed for that. And then I did get, so the thing is, I think this one also played at Sundance, and then out of this section of the festival, I'd say a bit more like the smaller titles, I did get a couple of screeners off. I did see We Believe You, which was pretty straightforward. I don't know if you managed to see that one as well.
No, I didn't see that one.
It's basically like about the emancipation of an abusive father who has this stranglehold on a family, and it like basically is not told very cinematically. It is just the conversations within trying to like go before a judge and get them emancipated, so the father can't bother them anymore.
Oh yeah.
It's a frustrating, but it's intentionally like a frustrating movie.
Okay, I see what you mean.
And then I did quite enjoy Little Trouble Girls. I think this one
I liked it too. Like I think I liked the first two acts better than the third act. Like the third act becomes a bit conventional for my taste, but
it needs to go somewhere, and it doesn't feel like it like completely like I don't know, makes the landing.
Yeah, but like it's very well made, and I really like the performances, and I think like Perspectives is the debut film section, and this is a very auspicious debut. Like I'm interested to see where this director goes next.
Yeah, I think also the lead performance was a standout to me. It was pretty good. And there was Black News also played at Sundance. We've covered that coming out of that festival. Do you want to talk about The Third Dreamers? Have you seen that one? Like The Third Dream?
That one I didn't see. No.
Okay. Well, you also already mentioned The Ugly Stepsister. I think this one as a pairing with Heldin is pretty great. you know.
Yes.
I guess
Yeah, that was one of two Danish movies in Panorama. I really enjoyed them both. Yeah.
So it also takes a closer look at like someone who works in like as a nurse who goes home to visit old people and take care of them, and it's about like her routine and the struggle she's facing as she's very like. I think for this one, the term Heldin would have made more sense if she's called a
Probably,
hero.
probably.
But yeah,
Yeah, no, I liked it, and I mean, having visited my grandparents in care facilities, and also in the case of Heldin, having been in the hospital for a prolonged amount of time not too long ago, I think they both like really nailed the vibe of what it's like to be in those places.
Yeah, no, definitely. Again, it's like frustrating in the right places, and it just makes you it is like much like Held in it is a spotlight, or Late Shift, it is a spotlight for the dedication and the hard work that
Yes.
often goes unnoticed or is even put into question. I think I like the characters that are in this that are basically a very literal confrontation for a lot of things. It does a couple too many things to me for it to be like super grounded. It feels like everything is coming at this person at once, but maybe that's also just very much how the job is. But it works well for the movie and like building up the tension and everything.
But yeah, and this one is very much one to watch, especially if you're into Nordic cinema and Danish films in particular, as is the other Danish film that I saw in Panorama, which is called Beginnings.
Beginnings. There we are.
There it is.
Yes.
Yeah, so this is the second film by Jeanette Nordahl, who Swiss viewers might know from her previous film Wildland, which was in competition at the Zurich Film Festival like 5 years ago, and that was also a Berlin premiere back in the day. And so this is her new film. It's quite different because Wildland was a bit more crime oriented, and Beginnings is very much a family drama. It's about this couple that's about to get separated. They've already agreed that he's going to move out because he's met someone else. And then she has a stroke, and he agrees to stay home until she gets better, and things get tricky from there.
I think
and we have like Danish acting royalty in that movie because Trina Dyrholm is the lead. And also David Densik, who plays her husband, has been in a bunch of great stuff as well. You might remember him as one of the potential moles in Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, especially.
Yeah, no, it's got some fun roles. I mean, I think she's incredible in The Girl with the Needle. I know that movie got barely into like the international Oscar race and is now streaming on Mubi and maybe gets seen that way a bit more. But I think her role in that, I would have given her like the supporting actress award in a heartbeat for that. I think she was one of the standouts in that compared to like the lineup that we ended up getting at the Oscars a couple of days ago. Yeah, anything else that we should... I also like The Good Sister. I don't know if you managed to see that one.
I did see that one. I liked it. It was an interesting take on a very current subject matter. And I really enjoyed especially the rapport between the two characters and the performances.
Like that sort of familiarity with each other, like that. I think made for a... And I also like that, without spoiling it, that like it doesn't amp up that tension to just like get build to like a big moment. It feels very internal the way that she's dealing with it, and I think until like that there is a bit of like something boiling over. So I think this was quite well made as well. Was this also one of the debut as well? So that's quite impressive.
But I think this one was in Panorama.
And Peter Hujar's Day also played at Sundance, right? There was another one.
Yeah, the Iris Axe. I quite enjoyed it, although it's I mean, it's not quite as strong as his other work. This is basically just two people talking for an hour and 15 minutes, but it's Ben Whishaw and Rebecca Hall, and it's their interactions are shot very well, and the script is interesting enough. Like, it's a smaller effort from him, but it's done very well.
Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to this as well, just because
Yeah.
of those two actors in it. And then, yeah, I think that's the big ones done. I don't know if on the second
Yeah,
page over here.
like
I mean, there's a
outside of
ton of
those,
films, you know.
outside of those, I watched a bunch of stuff from the retrospective because it was German genre films from the 70s.
Right. Yeah. But
So
any
like there
good
was a
like
serial killer
restorations?
movie, there was a vampire movie called Lady Dracula. It was very much my
Cool.
vibe.
Yeah. That sounds like a ton of fun. I mean, it's often a great place when you do have those like reshowings of certain films that would never otherwise, even in like, you know, the more program theaters that do have older films, often those films wouldn't even be shown there, like no chance. So it's kind of fun to maybe catch them at a festival. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, that's that. I think that sums it up for I guess the highlights coming out of Berlin.
Yeah.
What's the next festival you plan to attend? What's on the
I'm
schedule?
gonna be at the Fribourg Film Festival here in Switzerland, at least for a few days. I usually go there. And I will also be probably at the Diagonale in Graz, which I mentioned earlier, for a few days. And probably Vision du Réel in April, although that's one I can also cover remotely. So we'll see how much underground stuff I get to do there.
Mhm.
And the next big one is Cannes in May.
Yes, which is also for me audiovisual. This stuff with the camera and audio. The accreditations just opened earlier this month on the 1st of March, so we'll be sending in our applications and hopefully we'll be reporting back from there as well. And I think we also plan to cover Vision du Réel, but likely remotely because they make it so accessible. Swiss documentary film festival.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
And then I think we'll both be in Annecy, the animation film festival.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't applied yet, but I go every year, so I'll probably be back this year. I also have to apply for Cannes. I'm just figuring out who I'll be going for because I write for a bunch of outlets. So it's, yeah.
Well, we'll have you linked below as well, your Instagram page, your Letterboxd page, and on your Instagram, the different outlets that you write for are listed there, so you can find the latest of what Max has been up to, and even for those
also, if I can do a shameless plug, those of you who are into Substack, I also have a newsletter called Talking Pictures, so you can subscribe to that. It's there's going to be some Berlin stuff coming up, which I didn't get to write yet because I got a bit ill during the festival. I got a
like everyone did.
Yes, I got a pretty rough cold, and I still haven't caught up to all the stuff I was supposed to write during the festival. So
we'll be on the lookout for that. We'll definitely make sure to link your Substack as well. So thank you so much for the extensive coverage, the watch list worthy picks that you presented, and hopefully we'll see you. Well, I'll run into at the next press screening or festival, and hopefully we'll see you soon again. But yeah, thanks so much.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Oh, now I'm messing up the actual end of the stream. It's in typical Quiet on Set fashion. How would it be without messing up some of the technical stuff? Well, thank you for your patience, and we'll see you soon. All right, have a good one.
All right.
All right.